Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of College Football UK, brought to you by the AAW Network. I am your host, Fletch, and as always, I am joined by Sam and Gary. No Nick this week. Nicholas, but not hopeless, as we said on social media. Gents, how are we?
Doing okay, doing okay. Happy to make it to the midweek session where you can get a chance to talk about all the fun and games that is what's going on right now.
hmm How are you, Sam?
Yeah, good. Yeah, just spent a little bit of time trying to catch up on the college football that I inevitably missed because I was away over the weekend visiting family and friends. So yeah, um, as on brand, I did actually get to watch the Texas game because I was around my mates who sports Texas, so he had it on whilst we were there. So I got to watch a little bit of it, but apart from
Lovely.
that, yeah, very limited on college football this week.
Well,
Okay.
at least you managed to keep that up.
Exactly.
Well, we are now into week 11 of the college football season, and there is so much to talk about. Today, we're going to talk about a couple of lies we were told in pre-season in week one of college football. We're going to talk about the coaching carousel, and the college football playoffs because it's all happening right now and everything that you need to look for in week 11. Before we get into it, don't forget you can follow us and the AAW network on the socials and join our free to join Discord server. You can find all the relevant links and information in the description of this episode. If you are on YouTube, they are right below our beautiful faces. And if you are listening on Spotify, Apple, or any other audio only platform, you will find them within the app in the episode. Right, let's get into it. We normally first it's Nick's news. However, Nick isn't with us today, so I think we're going to cut straight to Sam's supplement, and then we'll go from there. Sam, have you got anything for us?
Probably the only thing that I've got is that Alabama have suspended Dre Kirkpatrick indefinitely after his arrest. So the
Right.
defensive back has been suspended indefinitely, and it looks like just sort of reading on the news that it was to do with 3 counts of reckless endangerment and 1 count of attempting to elude and speeding. And he's been released from Tuscaloosa County Jail on a $1,500 bond.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think of all the misdemeanors, it's fairly low on the list. I think more than what it does is it's more De Boer putting his foot down and making a bit of an example more than anything.
Possibly.
Yeah.
I
But
imagine
again,
he'll,
yeah.
I imagine he'll be back probably playing at some point. It may not be for Alabama, but he probably will play again. It's we've seen quite a lot in college football where they've had other things. So this is relatively low key compared to some of the bigger things we've seen happen with some of the players. Obviously,
Absolutely.
Isaiah Bond being a big one, and who was the other guy that was at Texas that we got rid of? And he's ended up at some like D2 school. The wide receiver.
Not the other one, the not Bond. There was another receiver who'd done
Yeah.
some. Mm.
Either way, he was. There's an example, but
Yeah. It's curious. I'm wondering if he's also making a little bit of an example because it's a vehicle, speeding and all the sort of news and of recent, shall we say, rookies and young kids with very fast cars doing silly things or being involved in dodgy sort of scenarios. I'm wondering if De
mm,
Boer is actually kind of, as you say, making an example. It's reckless endangerment. It sounds like he was probably having a race or something and tried to get away from the cops, but it could have been so much worse. I'm wondering if he's also making a bit of a statement there, going, "Look, guys, you've got to behave yourselves because worse things could happen as we've seen."
yeah. The only other bit as well is that Purdue's running back Mockabee has a season-ending surgery, so he'll be out for the rest of this year,
Mm.
which is unfortunate. Though I think Purdue are probably in a position where it's not as big of a deal. And then the last bit of news, which I'm sure we'll come more onto when we talk about this, but the opening college football playoffs first round game will start at eight o'clock Eastern time.
which is at
So that'll be
midnight for all of us. Midnight,
midnight
midnight,
for us.
1
1
a.m.
o'clock. No, 1
1
a.m. It'll
a.m.
be 1 a.m. Sorry, yeah. Eastern is 5 hours back, isn't it? So
Yeah,
1
sorry,
a.m.
1 a.m.
For us
Apart
hardy
from
folk in the
on
UK.
December the 19th on ABC and ESPN,
My
followed by a
birthday.
triple header on December the 20th. That
so
starts at noon.
yeah,
So
Well, that's my birthday sorted out.
yeah. It's 5 hours, except from that one glorious week which has already passed.
We've
That
missed
we
it, yeah.
get where it's that our clocks go back, but theirs don't, and we get that it's 1 extra hour early. Lovely, Sam. Thank you, Gary. Anything going on at the Gazette this week?
Colorado starting their freshman QB. BYU, other news, sort of interim athletic director at LSU. Aubrey is no longer interim, but nothing new, nothing that moves the needle any more than what Sam's already covered there. And then obviously the massive news, which is the CFB playoff bracket. It's just the be all and end all news this week.
Yeah. Obviously the playoffs is something we want to get into a little bit further on in the episode, so hold tight. If you are new to college football in particular, if this is still something that is something we're gonna go through it all. One of the specific segments is getting through the college football playoffs. I have a couple of bits, and that was that Hugh Freeze was fired on Sunday. Uh Again, something we'll get onto slightly further in the episodes. As again, we had the college football head coaching carousel to talk about, and announced about an hour before the podcast, before we started recording, Michigan confirmed, confirmed that they will not be playing their season opener next week.
next year.
Sorry, next year, in Frankfurt, Germany, like had been planned. It will now be played in Ann Arbor. Uh, Michigan statement said 2026 opener against Western Michigan will be played at Michigan Stadium on September 5th. We explored playing an international game in Germany, so in Frankfurt, Germany on August 29th, but decided to keep the game in Ann Arbor. There's a full release, something that obviously I'm not going to read the full release. Western Michigan have also released a statement on social media saying we were excited about the opportunity to represent Western Michigan University and the Mid-American Conference on an international stage. And our program was fully prepared to play in Germany. While we understand the event logistics didn't ultimately align with Michigan's program, we're grateful for their continued partnership and opportunity to open the 2026 season in Ann Arbor. We look forward to the experience for our team and fans across the state. Now,
which to me screams, we wanted to go, but Michigan didn't get paid enough.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or
we took the crux of it.
There is another thing that I do think has had to say in this, and that is Michigan governance has got involved to an extent, and said this is an in-state game. This is money that will be spent, a lot of it in state by people. It's too good for the in-state economy. We don't want you playing this game elsewhere.
It's the same reason. It's the same reason why the Bears don't like having their home games played abroad. Is especially the ones which are in interdivisional in the same division, because of the fact that it brings in too much money into the Chicago, the Chicago, what's it called?
Greater metropolitan area.
Yeah, it brings in more the economy. It brings in, so they don't. That's the reason why we never see the Bears playing at home, so to speak, whenever they come over here, because it's the same reason. But so I can kind of understand it from that point. But also, I don't know, that just seems to be, it does seem like it solely comes down to the money that Michigan University were or weren't going to get, because it's out from that statement. Western Michigan were very happy to go and have it over there, and probably had already agreed some form of deal, and it was down to Michigan changing their minds or not being able to agree an amount that they wanted to agree, which is I think it's unfortunate, because obviously, I mean, Fletch, you'll know, Germany does have quite a Michigan
Oh,
centric following.
I wouldn't say Michigan centric, but there are. I did read some statistics. It said there are a lot of Michiganders in Germany. And obviously, when you factor in then the military relationship that the
Mhm.
US has with Germany and how many Americans in general are out there, it's that there is a lot. Obviously, like part of the conversation will be money. I imagine that 110,000 people in one stadium boosts the local, boost gives them a bit of money. Um,
Mhm.
so, but I'm not playing that game. All I'm thinking about at this moment in time is I'm a bit sad. I'm a bit devastated. It was
Hmm.
going to be a great opportunity to go and watch my team play, and not have to, you know, fork out the cost of flying over the Atlantic and Detroit is not one of the easy cities to get to from the UK, so you have to. It's yeah, provided a
Yeah,
fantastic opportunity that's no longer
it's a
available.
shame because we've seen it be successful in Dublin. We've seen the NFL be successful in London, and obviously next year the Union Jack Classic will be successful in London. Um, but also it's such a shame because we've seen NFL in Germany really take off and be like an absolute event to have not jumped on the bandwagon, for want of a better description, and made it happen this year. Bit of a shame. I can't imagine it'll go away. I can't imagine it won't ever happen soon, but who knows? It may just not be Michigan who get to Germany first, which will be a real shame.
Yeah,
I mean, it's still possible that we'll have a German 2026 college game.
Mhm.
It's just not Michigan versus Western Michigan. And somewhere, obviously, again, we mentioned about the Army links over there. It wouldn't surprise me if they maybe approached Army or one of those, because again, you've already got the Army link, and where the obviously the game they want to hold is in Frankfurt. The main American base in Germany is the closest biggest city is Frankfurt.
Yeah,
So it makes sense having it there and having that sort of attraction. So it wouldn't surprise me
that'd be interesting if they reached
if
out.
the
Yeah,
2020 the Germany 2026 college game
featured
is
Army
still on the
somewhere.
cards. It's just where they go next with it. They may
yeah,
decide no, we'll scrap it for this year and we'll look at 2027. But it wouldn't surprise me if they still approach someone else,
It was a backup.
um,
Yeah.
because it is if they know that they had the support for it when it was Michigan versus Western Michigan. There's nothing to say that they wouldn't have the same support if it was anyone else, especially someone
yeah,
like Army. So,
Be interesting
absolutely.
if, I mean, what as Thomas said on when we interviewed him, logistics of moving, you know, fixtures around have to be done quite a long way in advance, though. So
mhm.
unless whoever army happen to be playing on that weekend are happy to do it, and I'm not even sure if that schedule's been released or whatever else yet now. So it would be interesting. But yeah, no, with the army links, if they don't do it this year, I can't imagine they wouldn't look at getting army over there at some point.
Yeah. Again, I think this is a topic I want to cover in the off season as well, just getting international games together. Um, but I will say, I know certain people, whenever I said, yeah, I'm going to go to Frankfurt, had a grumble and a whatnot. Because
Dublin is on, baby.
because
Dublin
I
is on.
chose my own team. Um, I am the one thing, and again, Mrs. Fletch will vouch for this. Mrs. Fletcher just said, I don't have to worry about trying to make it work and seeing hopefully if both of them can work and whatnot. I don't want to miss out on Dublin. The opportunity to see my team is just too good to pass up.
Hmm.
But I am so excited now I'm just excited now to get to Dublin. I'm excited now to get to London. Sam, I'm telling you now, I will pay Amy whatever she wants. I will find Amy anything she wants. You're coming to Dublin next year. Nick, I will wrap all of his children in bubble wrap. He's coming to Dublin next year. We're all gonna be there. End of story. Um, and then obviously we're all going to be there in London as well for it. So, um, yeah, that's about it as far as news goes. Um,
Hmm.
Okay, so I wanted to play a game. Now, Sam will remember this game from Hurdle the Line. It was called Week One is a Liar. It's not really a game, to be fair. I don't know why I call it a game. It's a little exercise more than anything. I
It's
want
better
us
to
to.
play a game. It's a
I,
nice game.
Yeah, I want us to go back in time a little bit. We're going to jump into a time machine and we're going to go back to week one. After the week one games had finished, we've gone through a 8, 9 month off season. 9 months for a lot of teams, 8 months for most of the rest once bowl games and playoffs and that has gone. We arrive in Dublin, we have the Dublin game, we go through again the full week one. There were a lot of facts and things that existed and things that were true at the time in college football about this season that are no longer true today. And I'll give you the example, and I've used this in the sheet that we read off, so you can't use this as your specific
It's
example.
annoying because this is the one I wanted to use as well. It's fine. I've kind of
Arch Manning is the number one. Arch Manning is the Heisman favorite. Arch Manning for the number one overall in the draft. Arch Manning for now. This is a lie that's told every year, not specifically about Arch Manning, by the way. There's always the number one who's never the number one. But by the time we get to week 11, that's not true. That wasn't actually a thing, and that never existed, and it was media hype. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw to Sam. I want you to go first. Now I've stolen yours and won't let you use yours. I want you to go first. What is something that we knew for a fact in week one about college football that was never true? It was not true. What did week one lie about?
I would say probably, I mean, I don't want to be obvious with this one, but Texas being the number one overall team in college football.
I see what you've
But
done. You've taken what I couldn't wouldn't let you
but
have. You've dressed it up slightly differently.
that's the obvious one.
Still
But I
gets to
think
talk about
it's
Arch
more
Manning.
of there's one with that in that Penn State would be in the top three.
Yeah.
And because we all talked about the fact that all the players were coming back, they were going to run it back, that they had all of their seniors coming back to be able to get them to that next level, and they have just completely capitulated. And that, I think, to me, is a bigger lie than Texas being number one, because I don't think a lot of people were, I think they picked Texas to be number one because of the fact that they did so well last year and they thought they could run it back again. I think the Penn State one is a much bigger lie because of how much they've fallen off. It's to the point where they've fired their head coach. They've they've lost. Drew Allar's just, is it Drew Allar? Yeah, Drew Allar. He's just not been again.
He's on IR now,
Another,
and he's out.
yeah,
He's done.
he's on IR. He was another one that was meant to be in the Heisman Trophy picture. Like, there's so much around Penn State that just has completely fallen off the rails. And of all the big surprises, that was for me the biggest one because of how much they've fallen. Like,
Yeah.
Granted, Texas was still 7-2, but they have just completely fallen off. And I think that's the biggest lie, is that Penn State were a playoff challenging team.
Yeah.
I mean, I was high on them at the beginning. I was like, yeah, they're going to run it back. They're kind of in the mix. They're as you say, they've brought back everybody. All the seniors are back. It's one last tilt. They're doing it at Ohio State. They're coming back. They're going to win it all and will go off in a blaze of glory. Likewise, my one, we're just going to jump straight in. Clemson. We're going to be ACC
Yes.
absolute dogs. They were going to tear it all up. They were going to be the be all and end all, and the return of the ACC back to some sort of national relevance. Where are the Tigers? What has happened to Clemson? Just Klubnik's just, I don't know what's happened there. I mean, he was much like you've said about Arch Manning being in the Heisman Trophy race. Klubnik was right up there as one of the joint favorites at the beginning of the season. He's not even mentioned in the top however many now. I mean, Clemson have just disappeared. What's gone on there? I mean, were we all suckered into it, much like the Penn State thing? We all thought, well, their roster's good, their recruitment's good, they've done well in the transfer portal, they've got some seniors back, it all looks set to go. The ACC isn't going to be that difficult for them to run through. They can't get out of their own way at the minute. They can't fight their way out of a paper bag, it seems at times. So Clemson, I think the big lie to me I was agreeing totally with Sam on the Penn State stuff as well. But yeah, Clemson have just been the biggest shock for my side of things.
Mm.
Understandable. My lie that week one told us, and I'm really, really, really sorry because I used my initial example to kind of slap Sam in the face a little bit. And this is gonna come as a bit of a backhander to Gary as well. So I'm just making collateral damage with all of these things. Alabama are cooked without Saban. And after
Week one
week
wasn't a
one,
lie. Week one wasn't a lie.
week one was a lie. Now I'm not gonna go with the other side of this and beat down on this one. I'm gonna go with the Alabama. I'm gonna go with the positive. Let's take a positive from this and say that like ever since week one and the whole Kalen DeBoer is probably on the hot between Kalen DeBoer and Billy Napier on who's on the hottest seat in college football. It's between it's just a fact that Saban can't get it done. Sorry, Alabama can't get it done without Saban. It's a fact that it's this new wave of college football, and it means the SEC has now lost its way. And then look at what Alabama have done and how
Mm-hmm.
they've gone 7-0. They won four ranked games in a row. And look, I'm not being funny, they're not blowing teams away if you look at the box scores, if you look at the results, but they've now got a Heisman favorite in Ty Simpson. They've gone, like I say, 7-0, won four games against ranked opponents, and they've had some really, really good wins. Looked very, very, very good in the process and are now ranked fourth overall, rightly so, behind the three big unbeatens in Ohio State, Indiana, and Texas A&M. That for me was the lie that week one told us.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah.
But I want to I like where both of you two have gone, and this is probably again these are the most common lies we're told throughout every off season and every week one when a result, no matter how good or bad,
Mm.
really backs up what we've thought throughout an off or does back up what we've thought throughout an off season. Now, Clemson obviously lost week one. That was not ideal um to help in this narrative, but every year there are four or five favorites, Heisman favorites, Natty favorites, favorites for the conference and conferences that come this point of the season are nowhere to be seen.
Mm-hmm.
Clemson, a prime example, as Sam's given. Penn State are a prime example, as has been given. These things are just. It shows the world of college football being what it is and how so many things can change year on year on year. We know it can happen in the NFL, but it seems exacerbated further with college football. Whereas yeah, and then it just seems like one of those wild things, and um,
It's the same on the flip side in terms of like, to give an example, like Mississippi State are generally seen as the whipping boys in the SEC. They're 5-4 this year. They finally won a conference game, and I think God knows how many years. I think 2 or 3 years now since they last won a conference game. And I mean, they look at what they did against Texas. They put them right into they had to go the whole game and into overtime in order to be able to win that game. And it's impressive to see that other flip side where you see teams that haven't been generally seen as good teams, like Kennesaw State. Like Kennesaw
Mm-hmm.
State last year, how many games did they win last year? One or two?
two.
Two. And then this year, they've only lost 2 games.
Yeah.
Like the complete turnaround of that. We talked about Appalachian State and their recruitment, and look how good they've turned out to be from their recruitment. I mean, it's not, and they're not, pulling up trees or anything, but they're still doing well. And like,
Mm-hmm.
it's nice to see that college football isn't as maybe as predictable as it was maybe 2, 3, 4 years ago. And that's a really good thing about it.
Yeah. And it shows maybe the influence of NIL is already happening because you can't now go, we know guarantee that it's going to be X, Y, Z, and these teams are going to be great and this and that and that, and they're going to be the whipping boys. And Boise State's another one that you could have probably brought up there where we thought they were going to just literally run the table. And that hasn't happened either. Is it, not a power shift as such, but a spreading of resources and the equalizing of the playing field across, a number of teams and a number of conferences because, there's a bit more money floating around now. And players are not forced, if you like, to go to only the top 7 or 8 teams because they'll get a better deal or that's where the money is or that's wherever. They're now able to kind of go, hey, I've always dreamt of playing for Texas Tech, because hey, Texas Tech right now can throw money at everybody, but their parents may have gone there, but if they really wanted to, they would have probably had to look at the Longhorns or they would have looked at a bigger team to make that, visible, get noticed, maybe have a chance to push on to the next level.
Yeah.
Now you don't need to cross the country. Now players don't need to kind of go out of state if they've got health issues or family issues where it keeps them and they think they have to stay there and whatever else. So the power shifted towards the players means that you are going to get teams which fail to live up to expectations. I'm reticent to say that because expectations are only set from the analysts or from the experts, and it's like you can't be experts on a sport that literally every 4 years completely turns around and gets completely new teams and new players and everything else. It's hard to predict. You can make a prediction, but the expectations and the experts, inevitably get egg on your faces as our conference prediction showed. You can say as much as you like, but as soon as the game starts, things go out the window. But I think it is more that the power shift of NIL towards the players, meaning more players, better players are being spread around the leagues and the conferences than there were before.
Yeah, it is, and it's yeah. There are so many variables that we just don't take into account. I think, or that we don't get until until there's a few weeks into the season, until these snaps been played, and it's one of the things that when we had our friend from the college football playoffs turn up last year, and we got to interview him when he was talking about why the college football playoffs, why their committee starts voting now. They don't partake in preseason polls. They don't partake in week 1, 2, 3, 4, because there is not enough data. They want to go off the unequivocal data that they get put in front of their faces during the football season. I'm not saying that there are teams that some of the AP poll decision making is wild, and we've dug into this a million times, submitted things before games are finished, but when we look at things like I think sometimes when I look at sorry the rankings, I think that there are some teams that are in there or hanging about in there on the basis of they were in there the week before and they don't want to throw someone from ninth completely out. You have to jump them down to, you have to give them a gradual up when actually no, they don't belong in there. And that, but what if they do get like they have a terrible loss to a terrible team? I'm going to give the Notre Dame Northern Illinois example last year. I can't remember off the top of my head how that ended up panning out in terms of the rankings, but you can't just, they're not going to throw Notre Dame straight out of the whole entire AP poll if you're top 10. They don't bump them out, and then Notre Dame ekes out a win the next week against the team that they should probably beat, but they got a win. So, and there are teams that just hang about because they were there. I do find that sometimes I think like that's a thing that teams are hanging about when they shouldn't, just because they were there already, and no one's just said leave. They're just kind of like you just slowly start walking towards the door, and then they start fighting with the security and get some extra time in. So, and
So
that's
It's
yeah,
interesting you choose Notre Dame. I'm sure we'll get onto them as we delve a bit later on because you know them being in the next segment is an interesting one. Moving on.
yeah. Well, I appreciate it, gents, for bringing forward a lie that week one told us. I really, really do. I want us to move on now, though, and we're going to go into the coaching carousel. I don't think all aboard is the right term to use. It's not a train, it's a carousel. But
Hold
we're
on
going to get
tight,
into
doesn't
it
it?
anyway.
Scream
So,
if you want to go faster.
scream if you do. I don't recommend screaming. If not, like, please give us a warning. Everyone can duck the headphones. If you're listening in a car, apologize to the person in the car next to you. Remind them you're not murdering anyone. Um, so as of right now, as of the 5th of November, 2025, these are the current vacancies in the FBS in alphabetical order. Arkansas Razorbacks, the Auburn Tigers, the Colorado State Rams, the Florida Gators, the LSU Tigers, the Oklahoma State Cowboys, the Oregon State Beavers, the Penn State Nittany Lions, the the UAB Blazers, the UCLA Bruins, and the Virginia Tech Hokies. Now I've got a
Correct at time
question.
of going to print.
Yes, again, correct. That's it. As of the 5th of November, I've got right. We're gonna do a little exercise again. Every you have all we have all been individually approached by every single one of these schools. Now, it's not at the same time. We can all live in our own separate worlds where these things can happen without us all being happening to us at the same time. Each one of these schools walks up to you and approaches you and says, Gary, Sam, Fletch, 5 years, $25 million. That's $5 million a year. Then, sake of the exercise, I'm not saying all the schools would do this exact number. We want you to be the head coach of our college football program. I want us to go through and we can all come up with our own individual ones. We might agree, we might disagree. But if all schools of these approach you and say, we want you to be the head coach of our program, which one are you taking and why?
Sam, you want to go first? He's trying to slope his shoulders here.
Yeah, I'm torn between a couple of them because there's to me there's a couple that are really interesting in terms of their potential. And for me, and this is going to be because I'm not going with probably the obvious ones. For me, I think Auburn Tigers is a really interesting job
Yep.
because they've heavily invested in the portal they did this year, and they also brought in a lot of youth this year. They were one of the colleges that seemed to bring in a lot in terms of young players that are going to be good players. And I think with they brought in Jackson Arnold at quarterback, although I know he's not had a great time. You had Eric Singleton they brought in. There was a few other pieces that they brought in across the team as a whole. You have Xavier Chaplin, who was a junior. They've got obviously a freshman center who's been playing, and I just think that there's something about this Auburn team that it's. I think if they were in any other conference, they'd be doing a hell of a lot better than what they're doing. I think they are kind of stuck because of the fact that they are up against so many strong other teams that I think that's kind of hampering them. But I just think they have a really good setup in Auburn. I think that the way that it's all sort of been done over the last year, and obviously they've just sacked their head coach, but the way that they were starting to build a team there, and they've got a lot of good youth in there, I just think that that for me would be a really interesting one because I think, although yes, you are in a very tough conference, I think give them the right coach and give them the right maybe a few additional players. I think you've got a really, really strong team there that could challenge against some of the other ones. So for me, I think Auburn would be the one that I would be looking at in particular. Out of those, but I think that there are a few in there that I would be, if it was me going into this, I'd be really intrigued by. But that was the one that stood out the most for me.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree with that. I mean, there's a plus point, as you say. Auburn Tigers are kind of synonymous with football. It's one of those things that they have that, and yeah, it's an interesting one with how much work they put in pre letting the coach go. There is a project there. I suppose it depends, right? If you're going into what is the expectations are as a new head coach going in, are you guaranteed those 5 years? So therefore you are there for a rebuild, you're there to kind of progress through and you're going to be able to put your mark on it type thing. If that's the case, I'd be weirdly tempted to go Oregon State Beavers. Just because you're going to be pioneering a completely new conference next year, the All-State Conference, we may as well call it, because it is all the state teams going in. And it's the rebirth of the Pac-12, whatever you want to call it. But you're going to have teams who you should, in effect, be probably better than, but you've got a real chance of stamping your authority on a new conference that has the ability, will bring in revenue, will bring in TV viewership, et cetera, which is what they've been lacking, without potentially the excessive pressures that would come from the LSU job, for example, or the other sort of high pressure that UCLA job has. I just like the fact that the Beavers are going to be setting up a whole new conference. They've stuck at it. They've been the champions of Pac-12. Let's call them that, not the fact that they got left behind. And just that just it has a little bit of something that I think would be interesting to get involved in.
Absolutely. Well, obviously, I've had a look and I've got a question for you, Sam. I leave it I've left a good chunk of this activity open to interpretation. So when I say a school's coming up to you and offering you 5 million a piece, we'll take the money aspect out. It's not going to be a case of like, well, I'm going to go to X because they're going to offer me 10 million, whereas they're going to offer me 20 quid on bus fare. Like we're not doing that one. When you take the money out of it, what are the metrics that we should be judging, and what should any head coach that's about to go through this cycle, what are you going to judge? What are you going to judge a school by? What are the metrics that you want to consider when taking a job in college football?
I think one of the biggest things for me, especially I think Gary's obviously mentioned it, time, because I think very much like the NFL, I think there are certain jobs where you will never be given enough time. It's like we talk about in our football. You need time to be able to implement your style of play, to get the players you want for that style of play, and be able to develop an ethos, if you will. Because I think, especially with the college, I think the way the values and ethos become extremely more important because they're so much. These kids are so much younger that they've got so much more that they have to manage alongside not just playing, but also their education and all of the stuff that comes with it. So for me, I think time is really important. But the other side of it for me is it's just the willingness to work on something. And I think there are a couple of teams within this where I don't think there is that willingness to adapt to something new, to develop a different culture, to change the way that they approach things. I think Florida is a perfect example of that they seem to have this, not archaic, but like this culture which has kind of been there for years, and they just can't seem to just move away from it. And I think this is where you start seeing why this year Billy Napier's been under so much pressure, and there's just this like expectation that Florida should be where they used to be, not where they are now. And I
Yeah, there's
think that
not a realistic expectation there at all, is
yeah,
there?
and I think that it's too messy. It's there's something that's wrong with that. It's almost like a cultural issue with that in terms of that needing to change. And I think that in order to be able to develop your style of and culture and ethos and all of that, you need a place that is going to be willing to ad- adapt to that. And that's one of the big things for me, because I think somewhere like Auburn, I think that it has more of that feel. I mean, obviously Alabama doesn't have an NFL team. Auburn is football, like to Alabama, and along with obviously Alabama and that. But Auburn, there's nothing else around Auburn. The closest football team they have is Atlanta, so it's to them
Yeah.
everything in Auburn revolves around this football team, like with a lot of college teams. And I think that they've had a few cultural shifts throughout the years, and I think that they've always been seen as like a much lower team, and one of the whipping boys of the SEC and that. And I think that they're starting to do what a lot of teams are doing, where we've seen maybe a few other teams higher or further on in the process of changing that narrative about that college football. And I think they're one of the ones which are on the precipice, that a few more added pieces and things like that. And I think there are a few on there that are like that. I think, so to me, that they're the biggest things is will they give you enough time to do what you want to do? And is there the buy-in of being able to implement an ethos and a culture that's
Could
links
be
in with the
completely
way that you want
changed.
to
It
play?
could be
Yeah.
completely, yeah. Are they, as you say, are they open to tearing down what's there, or
Mm.
being, not being, would you be forced to play the Florida Gators way, that type of
Yeah.
thing? Would you have to do that because it is the Florida Gators and we should be there? And it's like, yeah, but that's not what some head coaches, new breed of head coaches want, to bring their own ethos,
Yeah.
bring their
Is
own
that a,
playing style,
Yeah.
bring something to it. And if you're not allowed to do that because they're LSU Tigers and we are the Tigers and we are this, does that not stymie
I
the head
think,
coach?
yeah, I think as well, like any head coach going into that has got to be like, oh, well, this is what you're hiring me on the basis of. You know, this is what I do well. So why would you not want me to do
mm,
this? Like, what? Um, but when I was looking through some of the ones, some of these myself, I had a wonderful conversation with a friend of mine who went to the University of Arkansas, because there are some things that I was thinking of that do involve money. This wasn't what I asked my friend who went to Arkansas, but I'm thinking of like, I mean, and I fully get the whole, will they give me time? I want to think of that relationship with the AD. What is the AD going to be breathing down my neck, or is the athlete, or are they going to be saying, you do you, you take care of the football program, you're the football guy? How involved are people around me going to be? What kind of things do they want? Now, as a college, one thing I think most people don't really realize is, because college football works on boosters and works on all these donations that they get, you've got to go and do the events where you're going talking to former alumni, hoping to get donations from them and all that sort of thing, and the membership clubs, and you've got to be going doing all that sort of stuff. That's part of your job anyway. The athletic director will be on you for all the things you're doing to broadcast and publicize for the university. However, I think that there are absolutely parts of like that, how that relationship's going to work, and if you and the AD are not in sync, you should not be taking that job. Um, there is money aspect to it though, and when I say like, it's all well and good saying we're gonna pay you $5 million, but in Florida, $5 million is $5 million. There is 0% income tax.
mm.
Whereas you go to a California where there is 14.6% income tax. $5 million looks a lot different on paper.
Doesn't go as far. Yeah.
It looks the same on paper, but it doesn't look the same in your bank account. Now, granted, who are we, any of us, to be complaining about what 5 million looks like in your bank every year? But Gary, you look then a bit like 5 million. Well, I can't remember the last time I had
I,
that little in my bank account.
I'm just trying to imagine what it'd be like to look at a bank account and suddenly see 5 million just dropping in there on it's like, oh, it's payday. Whee! Look, there's your annual salary dropping in. It'd be quite bizarre, wouldn't it? But yeah,
Go get a
yeah,
Mackey's
I
now.
suppose that is, yeah, that's an interesting aspect I didn't think about. But yeah,
But it's just something when I look at the NFL jobs, I'm like, well, like when you look at what's a favorable destination in the NFL for players as well. I spoke about this on Hurdle the Line at times. Is like, well, if you want to, if the Dolphins are offering you 5 million and the Lions are offering you 5 million, that 5 million looks a lot different in Miami than it does in Detroit. It's colder, it's wetter, and it isn't 5 million. Whereas in Miami, it's warmer, it's nicer, and it's 5 million. But also,
likewise, California, I suppose, is the same sort of thing, isn't it? As you say,
yeah.
the massive amount of tax in California. So does that make the UCLA job less
But
appealing?
then that's one part of it. But then you also factor in what's the quality of life like in that area. If you've got a family and kids, what are the schools like in the general area around the university? What's the life? What's the not necessarily the nightlife if you're a head coach, you
Still
probably should.
nightlife because you got like
But
restaurants and all of that sort of
Still
stuff.
need
what
that,
what
don't you?
is
Yeah.
that life like? What kind of things can your wife get in with? Do they have the right things involved for your wife to be involved in the things that she wants to do? Can your family get involved? Like, all these different things that are part of it, but also you talk about the back staff and the staff behind you in the front office getting on your back. What are the fans like? If you lose 3 games in a row to teams you probably should have beat, how quickly are the fans gonna turn on you? And when the fans have turned on you, how nasty does it get? What are the
Mm.
facilities like that you're training with, and all those things? Now, I've not done all of this. I've not looked into all of this. I don't have that amount of time or that back knowledge on UAB. I'm not gonna lie to you, lads. I don't have that information on UAB.
I thought that's where you were going. I thought you'd done all that, and UAB was your destination, mate. I thought that was it.
But UAB was like the first one, I think. No, the second one I just chalked straight off the list. They have a low attendance rate. Okay, granted, you're not being well looked at. There's not a lot of eyes on you, but you've got a low attendance rate. Granted, you're a bit lower in pressure. You've not got a lot to play with in terms of NIL. It's not an enticing job. It's not somewhere I want to go, and I feel like I can probably make a bit of an impact, but I'm not going to do
You're also not going to get those 4-star recruits sort of and that
exactly.
going there as well.
It's such an uphill battle to do the things I want to get to. It's that UAB is the stepping stone onto the bigger program. I've got the bigger programs offering me right now. Where I was looking at was like LSU. Now look at the LSU situation. The governor of Louisiana is involved in fight. They've made the AD essentially ineffective in all of this, and that's his damn job. Like the governor has said you can't do your job because you are not good enough at your job. That situation's too messy. I don't want to touch it. I don't want to go near it. It's a red flag when governance and legal and politics are getting involved and all that sort of stuff.
You also wouldn't have the time in LSU.
No,
You'd
I
be
don't think you would.
expected to turn it around straight away.
UCLA was quite quick, a good quick one to chalk off the list. They've got the current legal battle that they're going on with the Rose Bowl. That was something for the news as well. The Rose Bowl are filing a lawsuit because UCLA are looking to go play at SoFi. I don't know, might up the attendance on a weekend there. Sorry, that was a backhanded one there that didn't need to be thrown in your face there, Sam.
It's fine. We'll
But
come back to it at
they,
some point.
it's a half full stadium, miles away from the campus. No one will. It's a silly situation. You've got to navigate that. That's just a distraction. I don't want it. Um, Virginia Tech's an exciting one. They've just invested. They're just claimed that they're investing a ton into the athletics department. I think it's like 250 near million they're going to invest into the athletics department because they accept that they're behind. So you'd get good backing, but if they're all of a sudden
It comes
investing
with pressure, doesn't it?
a full waft of cash, like I'm thinking, um, Arkansas was really nice. And again, having this chat with a friend, like they don't do well in recruitment. You're in too big, like you've got a bit of openness, I guess, in where you are for recruiting, but there's too much around you, too many big schools around you competing for the same pool of talent. You have goodish NIL. You're about middle of the pack for the SEC and the kind of the big schools for NIL. I feel like you can get there. I'm looking at Fayetteville and there's lots to do. It's a nice city. It's a nice place. The fans all like they pack out the stadium every single week, whether they're good or whether they're bad. They do get a bit. They've been calling for this job for a while and calling for a head coach change for a while, but they've not been particularly nasty about it. I've not seen. I feel like it's an okay place to go. You're in the SEC, you've got a lot of eyes on you, but also you've got some good resources. But where I kind of landed on as my final one was Oklahoma State. I think
I wouldn't
that,
be able to go near them. Sorry, they
but
were the first off my list.
Yeah, I
but
bet you looked at that and went, nope.
it's a
Much
bit
like I
like
went Florida, nope.
it's the enemy of your enemy is your friend. Sam, Oklahoma are your enemy. Oklahoma
Yeah, but
State are the enemy of your enemy. They're your friend.
it's still Oklahoma though, isn't it?
But they have a very good NIL budget. They have very good booster program. It's a good area for recruitment. It's a good area to be in, to be in and around that. You can do well given the resources that you've got. There's a lot of potential to work with. And they just gave the previous coach was there for over 20 years. If you don't like it's they show that they will commit to a coach if you are putting things together and doing something well, they will commit for the long run with given the area, given the pool that you can pick from, given the resources that would be available to you. I'd look at Oklahoma State, me. I'd be very, very happy taking Oklahoma State.
I'm gonna go. I'm gonna sort of counter that with a reference that you'll really love, Fletch. But using the similar sort of thing for soccer over here, would you want to be the guy who followed Sir Alex Ferguson? Would you want to be the David Moyes for Oklahoma State, who had to go in there and follow him, followed somebody who's been there, done it all, and would have to live up to that?
I appreciate where you're coming from with that sentiment, but I think it's not quite that. So the equivalent, sorry, example is Saban at Alabama.
Yeah.
Whereas you're looking at more, how long was Moyes at Everton for? You're looking, I think, you're more the Moyes at Everton replacement because he was there
Eddie Howe at
12, 13.
Bournemouth.
Eddie Howe,
Mm.
but you're looking at, I don't think it's, and given that they've had a couple of not great years and they've had some incredible talent in the building and not got the best out of them. I'd be somewhat okay given the down years in that situation. Whereas Fergie just won the league. Fergie won the league and left. Well, so
Mm.
it's not quite putting it like that, but the United team had a damn good team. An aging team, but a good team. And Fergie was the greatest of all time. I, and
Yeah, so it's
I
not.
see
Yeah, I
where
guess
everything's
it's not
coming
quite.
from.
Yeah,
I see exactly where you're coming from, but I just don't think it's not quite
it's not quite.
the
He's not quite so revered as you say as Saban in Alabama, or he's not that sort of mythical. You have to follow that. Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, I think there was frustrations with him for a couple of years. The tenure, fair enough, absolutely. Um, when you walk into that building, things are gonna shake up, as we always see. I'm not necessarily factoring in who's gonna go, who's gonna enter the transfer portal, who's decommitting. I'm not running into that one at this moment in time because it's just too much to look into.
Yep.
But given some of those, um, I'm thinking. But Gary, I mean, I wanted to throw this question to you because I saw it on social media the other day. Now, I'm not saying I agree with this proposition. I'm not saying I disagree with this proposition. The question is, I saw it and I thought I'd like to ask Gary this question before anyone thinks I'm going at it with somewhere. That is one hell of a list of seats available on the carousel. Hell of a lot of
Yes.
horses. There's a couple of carriages in there as well. Very nice carousel. At the end of the season, Florida State are going to make a decision on what to do with Mike Norvell. Now, given that you've got four SEC teams in there, including one in-state competition, do you think Florida State should? It's because there's one thing to say, yeah, we need to move on from Mike Norvell, but then there's another thing to say, we need to move on from Mike Norvell, but like now we've got competition. Any head coach we want, really, that we think is the best for FSU, has
Might not be
multiple
around.
other
Yeah.
options.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. Obviously, there are, I think, as we said a couple of weeks ago, there are 60 million reasons not to move on from Mike Novell right this second.
Hmm.
However, the fact that the Gators job is open, the fact that the LSU Tigers job is open, are those more attractive options for a coach in the area? North Florida, LSU, they're all kind of close to. Is it? Do you pull the plug as soon as possible, end of season? As soon as it becomes right. If we're not going to be bowl eligible, if the season's gone, then that's when you pull the plug to try and get into the mix because you may have your eye already. And any sensible athletic director will have already been scouting, shall we say, just in case the whole thing does fall apart. Yes, we had a shocking year last year. We got rid of all the assistants and whatever else. Seems to be an improvement this year, but not much. So any athletic director worth his salt should be out there looking at other head coaches and other options just in case they have to make that decision. The chances are higher now that the person that you have picked out, rubber stamped, whatever you want to call it, is no longer on the market when you say, hey, do you want to come and get this job? Because they've just walked into Penn State or they've just taken the LSU job. I guess it's a risk. It's great for Mike Norvell. It puts him probably in a slightly stronger position because, as his competition may have taken a new job by the time the end of the season comes around. But I think if they were going to do it, they should have done it already. The fact they haven't has kind of painted themselves into a corner. So they got to kind of ride with it now and just see what the hell happens, I think.
Fair enough. I was curious as to what you thought would have been the case in that. Um, okay, so appreciate it. I just want us to quickly one more wrap up on all these teams offer you $5 million. You get to be the head coach of this program. Well, $5 million for 5 years, $25 million overall. You get to be the head coach of these programs. Which one are you taking, Sam?
Auburn.
Auburn, Gary?
Sticking with the Beavers.
Sticking with the Beavers, and I will stick with Oklahoma State. Um, it's a lot of orange. It's a lot of orange that we've gone and followed along with there.
It's a bit weird, isn't it? It's a bit odd.
Yeah. Okay, so the biggest bit of news this week, as both Gary and Sam alluded to earlier this episode, is that last night at 1 a.m. in the morning, the College Football Playoff Committee released their first top 25 of the 2025 season. Now, we're in November. This is crunch time in the season. Every game is make or break, and every game means something for where you, not only where you are in the standings, but whether you get in or not. We will get into what that top 25 looked like and get into what that playoff bracket looked like in a minute. However, I want us to take a couple of minutes to just remind everybody what the playoffs look like. This isn't the NFL. There isn't a 1 to 7 in the AFC and a 1 to 7 in the NFC that are all decided by your win percentage. They aren't decided by your strength of victories, your point differentials. These are decided by a committee who say, I like you, I don't like you. Quick, basic introduction is it's 12 teams. Five auto bids. Those are for the champions of the Power Four conferences, the ACC, the Big 12, the Big 10, the SEC, and one Group of Five conference winner. And then the other seven are at-large bids. They're whoever just gets ranked within and is next to fly. It is not affiliated with the AP poll that's been released every week since the preseason. The only change that will happen in comparison to last season is we will be the bye weeks will the seeding will be done via the rank in the poll, so conference champions will not automatically be given a bye week like they were last year. As we remember, the top four conference champions got a bye week
And all lost.
and all lost. Yeah, so it will be seeded. Whoever's seeded 1, 2, 3, and 4, they will get the bye weeks. The rest of the 8 will be seeded as and where, as appropriately. Sam, no. Actually, no. We've gone to Sam the first time. I passed it on to you, then Gary threw that one straight at you.
Yeah. Slopey shouldered the other one, yeah.
On that note of 1 to 12, do you agree with the decision to organise via seeding, or do you think that the conference win, which doesn't mean anything in terms of where you're ranked, apparently, do you think that that should at least count for something in the playoffs?
Yes. Winning your conference should count. The seeding of the playoffs, the risk factor and all that kind of that goes with knockout postseason. It becomes it not negates or nullifies, but it cheapens inter-conference games if being the conference champion doesn't get you anything other than, a little asterisk at the end of 2025 season. Oh, I was ACC champion, but it means absolutely nothing because it didn't give us a bye. It didn't count towards any sort of anything. I think it's wrong. I think it means that teams will play weakened teams for conference games that they may already be winning. The whipping boys, we all say that, there's whipping boys in every conference, and it will cheapen those games to becoming a farcical sort of, walk-on games almost for the bigger teams and the bigger squads. It's just, it takes away some of the magic about the conferences and whatever else if you don't give your conference champion something. So to make it not count, to not give them the week off to say, congratulations, you won your conference, you get a week off to get ready, just seems odd and seems weird.
Yeah, see, it's that whole idea where you could lose the conference championship,
yeah,
but still get a bye week.
Yeah,
it doesn't make any sense. You may as well. It's like when recent conversations have been about the playoffs in the NFL around should the divisional winners get an automatic home game. It's like, well, you've done enough to win your division. You've beaten out everyone else in your division.
Mm-hmm.
So you deserve to have that home game. Yes, you may not be the best team in the NFL or the NFC or the AFC, but you've been good enough in your division. And the whole point is, if you're not going to reward winning your conference, Don't have conferences.
Don't have conferences. Just put everyone in a big pot together.
Yeah.
And just
Because
do
that's how it
one
comes
to
across.
172, and whoever comes out in the top, and then that's it.
Yeah.
It makes no sense.
It'd also mean that then all you'd have to do is just run down the list.
Yeah. So who's in the top? Who's in the playoffs? 1 to 12, done.
Yeah.
But then strength schedule goes out the window and all that sort of. But it just does away with it. I mean, maybe you could keep the conference and whatever else, but then just have one big table where everything goes in. It just makes no sense to negate. To negate, as you say, oh look, you've got all the way to the conference championship. You lost the conference championship, but you almost deliberately lost the conference championship game because you knew you were getting a bye and you were resting everybody. So basically, you gave your players 3 weeks off. It just smacks of just wrongness about it. I don't know a better way of saying it. It's just weird. It just and it would open up, without getting too dark here, but there's a lot of money sloshing around in professional sports and NIL and whatever else, and betting syndicates and whatever else. It just opens up young players and young kids to being approached by unsavory characters to say, "Hey, look, throw this game, do this betting scandal, etc., etc. Here's a couple of $1 million because they'll make however much on the game." It's just horrible. It just opens up too many horrible things, and as you say, it just cheapens the interconference games to such an extent that the conference championship games, neither team, if one team, as you say, if one team's in there in the the Big Ten championship and has a bye, then the other team's kind of, what's the incentive for them to win it?
Yeah. It brings in that whole line, like what we see with week 18 in the NFL as well, where your team's already in the playoffs. They're already going to win their division, so they don't put anyone out, which is the right thing to do because you don't want to injure your players for the playoffs.
Absolutely.
But you could end up then seeing that in college football and in the bowl games are so much. There's so much enjoyment with the bowl games.
There's
and with
such a celebration at the
championships.
end of the season, aren't they?
Yeah,
It's such a big thing.
It, like you say, it just cheapens it cheapens and sort of devalues the hard work that each conference has to go through in order to be able to show that they're the best. Because it's the whole point of getting a bye week is you're rewarding the best team of each conference. They've done the best in their conference to beat out all the rest in their conference. They deserve the bye. And fair enough, they may not be an 8-0 team. They may not be a 9 or whatever it'll be, 10-0 team at the time. But they're still, they're not going to be a bad team because they've just won their division or their conference. But it just gives them that extra incentive in that championship game to say, okay, we need to win this championship game because we then get a bye week. And that creates a better game. It creates a better atmosphere. It makes the game more intense and plays into that like pre-playoff like build up.
Yeah, it builds you into the playoffs, doesn't it? The conference game, the conference champions games build you up into then getting a run into the playoffs. Take that away, conference games become cheaper. No point to them. Half the time it will be freshmen and red shirts that all just playing that championship game. Then it becomes almost like the Pro Bowl or pointless game where neither team wants to win, neither team wants their stars to play, neither team wants their big players in because they'll get injured. And it just becomes like, oh yeah, you won the SEC championship game with your walk-ons and your freshmen and your whatever else because the other team didn't even, literally show up because they're on a bye week. No. Rah, rah, rah. Rant over.
Yeah. No, I agree. And we've had this discussion again on Hurdle the Lion in particular because of it was the Lions who proposed the rule in April or March when the league meeting was to do the playoff seeding by record and whatnot rather than so
Mhm.
the best four, like the same 7 teams would get in, the four division winners and whatnot, but you seed it via one to
Yeah.
seven rather than conference winners, sorry, division winners.
Yeah,
And
so the
we,
NFC South winner may end up seeded fifth, for example.
well, seven.
Which
Well, actually,
inevitably
no,
they
to be
will
fair, it's the
because
booked. It's
they're
going to be the
crap.
booked, so there'll be
Yeah,
five.
but
Um,
usually, and in that example, the last few years, the NFC South champions would be seed seven.
And we did, by the way, and I will say this here, how convenient the Lions brought it up because you had to obviously submit a lot of them towards the end of the season, or the conversations had to happen towards the end of the season, when one of the Lions or the Vikings would have gone 14-3 and not had a high. It was
Mm.
how convenient that Sheila decided then to bring up said rule. Look, actually, it was released at 1 a.m. this morning. I stayed up. I watched the little show that they did. So, in between watching Akron and UMass,
As you do.
as you do. Um,
Sorry, as you do. Sorry.
so as usual, we will go. Well, we normally will go through the polls. This week, we're gonna go through just the college football playoff poll. We'll get all the other stuff sorted for next week, but we're just gonna go through the college football playoff poll, and then obviously we'll even do the our DAZN games of the week. Where the
Where the flippity flippit is it?
right? I tried to do something a little bit different with the way I was putting forward
The
these
only thing I
graphics,
would say
but
about because obviously we have the UK AP poll. The only thing I will say about it is um I don't understand, and I did mention this off camera before. I don't understand how we are below Vanderbilt. It doesn't make
And
sense to me.
also, I still don't understand how Notre Dame are as high as they are. And I'm sure
so
Nick feels the same. But anyway,
so for our audience listening at home, or wherever you are, if you are on audio only versions, um, obviously they release a top 25, but then the seeding is decided. Within that you then get the seeding where not all 25 teams obviously make it in. I'll go back from 25 to number one as fast as I can. So 25 was the Tennessee Volunteers. 24 was the Pittsburgh Panthers. 23rd were the Washington Huskies. 22nd were the Missouri Tigers. And 21st were the Michigan Wolverines. Number 20 was the Iowa Hawkeyes. Number 19, the USC Trojans. Number 18, the Miami Hurricanes. Number 17, the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets. Number 16 was the Vanderbilt Commodores. Number 15, Louisville Cardinals. Number 14, the Virginia Cavaliers. Number 13 was the Utah Utes. Number 12 were the Oklahoma Sooners. 11, the Texas Longhorns. Number 10, Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Number 9, Oregon Ducks. Number 8, Texas Tech Red Raiders. Number 7, BYU Cougars. Number 6, Ole Miss Rebels. And then your top 5 were Georgia Bulldogs, Alabama Crimson Tide, Texas A&M Aggies, Indiana Hoosiers, and number 1 were the Ohio State Buckeyes, which means if the playoffs were to start this weekend or be based off this one, you would get Memphis at Georgia. So, by the way, the group of five, obviously, it's the highest ranked group of five conference winner. You may notice in that top 25, there were no group of five teams, which is infuriating. So, we'll talk about that in a second. But they still will have a top ranked group of five team if they don't make, even if they don't make the top 25. That will be Memphis, which is the correct decision, even as infuriating as it is. So it'd be Memphis at Georgia, with the winner going on to face Alabama. Oregon at Texas Tech. Winner would face Ohio State. And it'd be Virginia at Ole Miss. Winner would play Texas A&M. And then Notre Dame at BYU, with the winner facing Indiana. Now, I guess the question here is there anyone here who shouldn't be in here?
Notre Dame. Notre Dame should nowhere near this. Sorry, Nick, but Nick would agree with me. There's no way they should be in the top 12. No way. No two lost team should be anywhere near that top 12 right now. There are plenty of other teams on unbeaten records or one loss records who should be in there above some two loss teams.
Fair. Entirely fair. Sam, did anyone shock you in this one?
Yeah, I mean, Notre Dame is. I mean, they're ranked quite highly, and I don't quite agree with the fact that they should be in there. I mean, Virginia are 14th. They're 8-1. They deserve to be in there. Louisville are 7-1. Georgia Tech are 8-1. There's at least two other teams that are ranked below, that deserve to be in that position. My thought process with it is mainly probably the fact that Notre Dame would probably historically put up a better game, and that's maybe where they're thinking. They maybe think they're a stronger team. They just lost, games in particular games, but it shouldn't be like that. It should be, Georgia Tech are 8-1. How they're not in there, it's just baffling. How they're
Yeah.
how they're not above Texas and Oklahoma is baffling, and we're the first and second teams to miss out. But yeah, I think Georgia Tech, I think, will be the most have been done by the hardest on this, and Louisville as well. Probably feel they should be within that conversation. Otherwise, I think probably all the other teams deserve to be in it at the moment. It's that final position that Notre Dame have taken up that I think is controversial.
Yeah. And it's worth noting as well that they are number 10 in the AP poll as well this week.
Which they, again, I don't think that they should be above. I don't think they should be above Georgia Tech.
No,
Georgia Tech took a nosedive this week
and
dropped
one
5
loss, and they got
places.
absolutely thumped in the polls. I thought, just like, wow, hang on. Other teams have got, as we've said, Notre Dame have got two pretty poor losses on their record, and yet somehow are untouched, or somehow have this Teflon ability to stick around, like you've said at the beginning, Fletch. Teams get put there in that pre-season poll, and people are reticent to get rid of them. Granted, the UK and Ireland poll got rid of them pretty quickly, but they've somehow snuck their way back in again. It's like, just stop with the
But this
I don't know,
this is where
green shamrock viewpoint. Anyway,
it's the decision making of the this is where the scheduling of the game comes in, because Georgia Tech lost to North Carolina, which, granted, not a great team. And then you look at the likes of Oklahoma; they lost to Ole Miss and Texas, two much stronger teams.
much stronger. Yep.
Are, however you see it. The only thing that it is that Notre Dame similarly lost to Texas A&M and lost to Miami, who at the time were a top 3 ranked, well, one of the higher ranked teams. Obviously, they've fallen off, but again, two much better teams than what North Carolina are. Now, I'm not trying to justify the decision. I think it's still harsh that they've dropped 5 places, given the fact of who they've lost. I mean, Louisville Cardinals,
you could say the same. Well, how if you're going to say you've lost to a bad team, Alabama, what the hell are you doing in 4th?
Yep.
Your one loss is to a shocking team,
a team that's not in the top 25,
not even anywhere close to the top 25,
not even receiving votes.
So, I get your point, Sam, but it's horses for courses. Then they've got to do the same across.
We're the exact same. We've lost to Ohio. Fair enough, we lost to Ohio. But we've also lost to Texas, to Florida, to the Florida Gators, who aren't a ranked team. They're 3-5. We shouldn't. I still think 11th is quite high for us.
I
also think that there are other teams. I would. I just think it's all down to, like we say, it's all down to opinions, and people see those losses in the SEC as bigger than as more reasonable losses than Georgia losing to North Carolina. But I still think to go 8-1 you know, Virginia have done the exact same thing, and they're in this list.
Yeah.
Make it
And
make
their loss was also to North Carolina. It's the exact same team. So why are we dropping out? Why are we dropping them out and not dropping Virginia out?
But here's the next thing though. We're talking about 8-1. Do you deserve to be in at 8-1? Do you not deserve to be in at 8-1? And there's one team that's in, there's one team that's not. Do you know who's not even in who's not even in the top 25 that's 8-1? Memphis. Yes, they're in the playoffs, but that's because
Mm.
essentially they get the whole by default. We have to let one of you in.
We've got to let one of you
Mm.
lot in. Oh
We've
God,
got
yeah,
to, yeah,
whoever.
fine.
I
No,
mean,
well,
Tennessee shouldn't even be in the top 25.
no,
They've got 3 losses,
no.
so they should be
Absolutely
out,
agree.
and Memphis should be in, which would then make more sense. But again, I would still have Memphis higher because, you know, Pittsburgh are there and they're 7-2. Washington are there 6. You know, there's all these teams that have 2 losses, and the only argument that you can have for them being higher is Memphis play weaker teams.
Yeah.
That's the only argument you have, and it's like, well, but at the same time, you know, these schedules are put in way in advance. They can only beat what's in front of them at the end of the day. And if they can prove that they can beat, you know, 8 teams and only lose to 1, it doesn't matter who they are realistically. They're still 8-1. And I think that's where it can be a bit unfair. But yeah, I think the problem with this is that you'll never have a perfect system with it, because you can't. I agree with the sense of that you can't just do it based purely off records.
Yeah, I get that, because you'll end up with a TCU who went 13-0 whenever it was a few seasons back.
I mean,
walked into the playoffs and got absolutely spanked, which
I mean,
nobody wants to see.
The only thing I would say, and again, probably another reason why I think it's harsh, is if I just go to the team that I was thinking of a minute ago, go to standings. Navy is 7-1,
Mm-hmm.
and they're top of the American Athletic. The only team that they've lost to is North Texas, who are 8-1.
Yeah.
So why are Navy not in there? Because losing that game is a lot more difficult than Memphis losing to UAB. So my other argument would be is why are Memphis there and North Texas or Navy aren't? Because again, to me, Memphis have lost a harder game than what Navy have lost. And again, you'd make the same argument for North Texas. I mean, North Texas have only lost to South Florida, who were 6-2,
and have beaten ranked teams left, right, and centre this season. So
yeah. So why are they not in there? You know, there is a level of hierarchical, however you want to see it, that sort of like elitism with this, because I would make arguments for all 3 of those teams that we've just mentioned in Memphis, Navy, and North Texas to be within this list, and maybe not to necessarily be in the playoffs, but to be first team outs and second team outs.
Well, let me right. Okay, I'll make this argument on behalf of Memphis. We're talking about losses, but we're not talking about quality wins, right? Navy have played VMI, the Virginia Military Institute, who obviously are like one of the greatest college football programs of all time. UAB, Tulsa, Rice, Air Force, Temple, and Florida Atlantic. They're the wins, and obviously the loss at North Texas. And then you've got Memphis, who've beat Chattanooga, Georgia State, Troy, but then they beat Arkansas, SEC Arkansas, who granted are one of the teams without a head coach now, but they beat Arkansas, Florida Atlantic, Tulsa, South Florida, who have been ranked, and Rice. So while the losses, like the loss for Navy might be a better loss than the loss for Memphis, Memphis have, I think, at least two, maybe three better wins in under the books. And then Florida Atlantic, they won by 10. Yeah, they beat Florida Atlantic by nearly 30 points, where Navy beat them by 10. They beat Rice by 24 points, where Navy beat them by 8. So, like, some of the wins as well that they've got that are the same wins, Memphis have had them better.
Hmm. But again, it's what
Also,
Sam says,
Na-
right? You can never get a.
Navy beat UAB.
Yeah.
Memphis did not, and they're a very bad team.
Um,
You can never have a perfect system. This is one
Yeah,
of the
you'll
the
this,
never
this is
win.
what
joys
I'm
of it,
saying.
and you'll always have stuff that's contentious stuff, and sometimes you almost think the college football committee do it on purpose to get
But
conversations going, to get people talking about it, to get it in the media, to get done news. Because some of the decisions, as you say, are just like, what?
But I also think, right, and I'm not saying that public opinion will decide the playoffs, but if you're gonna do this kind of thing and do it, why are you releasing four or five of them first? Why not just do the ranking at the end of the season, right?
Mm-hmm.
Why do we need this fanfare and this like build up for a month where it's actually if we put Notre Dame in at 10, let's see what people say. Like if there is
Let's put the feelers out
uproar,
there. If
if there
everyone's
is
going to scream about this, then let's pull them out.
if there is uproar, you can alter that the
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
next week. Whereas if you do it at the end and you make the wrong decision where there's uproar, you're knackered then. Whereas this time, again, this is something I know we're going to debate and we know we're going to talk through multiple times. I want us to start looking now towards week 11.
Mm.
Those are what the playoffs would look like if they started based on this one, but there will be
Remember,
a good
first
couple
playoff starts
of
at 8.
yeah, and the first playoff game, 19th of December, 8 p.m. Eastern. That'll be 1 a.m. our time. You have a full Saturday of playoffs and bowl games on the 19th. So on the zone this week, we've got a big one. And I will also add, by the way, with this, the date's wrong if you're watching on YouTube. This week, on Tuesday night, I sat down and watched some NCAA college basketball because
Get
it was
in
on the
the
zone
zone.
for free.
Get in
I watched
the
Michigan play
zone.
basketball. I watched UNC play basketball. I watched I think Tennessee play basketball. Do you know what I watched a bit of last night, Sam? Texas play basketball. Um, it's very similar to football, by the way, right? You've got these couple of weeks now where there's going to be non-conference games. This is where the SEC do the cupcake thing. But where most schools actually, to be fair, do a couple of cupcake games and they get some of these games. One thing college basketball does though is they do exhibition games before the season starts
Mm-hmm.
that don't count, that get you warmed up. But these are your non-conference games, your big schools. These are some cupcakey games. But college basketball is now live on DAZN for free. Make sure you're checking it out. It's all under it's no longer NCAA College Football tab. It's now NCAA College Sports tab. Now, football this week, tonight, so of no importance to anyone who's listening to this because these games are finished. We've got Kent State at Ball State and Northern Illinois at Toledo at midnight. On Friday night at
Wait.
1 a.m.
Sorry, before you delve in, sorry. Have we got confirmation as of yet that Maction shows on the zone? Because I was seeing on socials that we were kind of like, there's no confirmation as of yet that we're going to get Maction.
Kent State at Ball State.
Excellent. Good. So
Northern
Maction is
Illinois
live.
at Toledo. Is your
Maction!
matching? It's midweek matching, Wednesday night matching. Um, obviously there was meant to be matching last night. I watched it, but obviously not on the zone. Friday night we have Houston at UCF at 1 at 2 a.m. It's Northwestern at USC, and then strap in for a full day of college football on Saturday at 2 p.m. College game day at 5 p.m. Indiana at Penn State. Georgia at Mississippi State, BYU at Texas Tech. Then at 6 o'clock, it's Ohio State at Purdue. At 7:30, it's Maryland at Rutgers. At 8:30, it's Oregon at Iowa, Iowa State at TCU, Syracuse at Miami, Texas A&M at Missouri. At 9 o'clock, Auburn at Vanderbilt. At 9:30, Washington at Wisconsin. At midnight, it's Air Force at San Jose State, Wake Forest at Virginia, LSU at Alabama. At half past midnight, it is Florida at Kentucky and Navy at Notre Dame, which will be live on Sky Sports, not DAZN. And finally, to wrap up your night, also at 12:30 is Nebraska at UCLA. Then at 3 o'clock in the morning, San Diego State at Hawaii via the Mountain West app, and UNLV at Colorado State at 3:30. And breathe.
Woof. Well done, sir. Well done. I mean, you let us down by not kind of clarifying which of those teams, as you were running through, were bowl bound already. But next week. Big shout out to Hawaii there, by the way. Hawaii are heading to a bowl game.
Um, I know Ohio State are, BYU are, Georgia are. I'm not doing that now. I can't be bothered.
I'm not
No,
doing
I'm not
that.
doing that.
I'm not doing that.
So we can go with some games on the zone. We can go with some games that are not. Is there any games that are taking your fancy this week here, Gary?
I think the one you mentioned, the Auburn Vandy, should be an interesting one. Was on there, wasn't it? Sorry, can you bring the graphic back up so I can have a quick
Auburn
read?
Vanderbilt was on there, yeah.
Yeah. And that one was, there we go. That's the one. Let's have a look. Auburn Vanderbilt, LSU,
Oregon,
Alabama,
Iowa.
obviously.
Oregon, Iowa would be a good game.
Yeah. And then, I mean, the game of the week is definitely the midnight LSU Alabama game. But yeah, there's just a couple of other ones in there that have got some interesting things about them.
There's a game that I'm interested in, but it's not on that list. Oh no, it is. Sorry, it's the BYU Texas Tech. I think that's going to be a fantastic game. 7v8.
Number 8 versus number 9.
7th v 8th.
Which ranking are you looking at?
Oh yes, in the playoffs, it's 7th versus 8th. In the AP poll, it's 8th versus 9th.
Make it make sense.
Yeah. There are a couple that take my fancy. A few of them are on DAZN this week. The Navy at Notre Dame. They compete for the Rip Miller Trophy. So there's a trophy at stake. Also in the American Conference, Tulane at Memphis this week. Now,
we just talked about Memphis and all that sort of stuff, yeah.
Tulane are 3-1 in the conference. Memphis are 4-1 in the conference. Tulane are 6-3 overall. Memphis are 8-1 overall. This does have heavy implications for the American Conference. If Memphis win, they take a real strong hold with Navy. If Tulane win, it opens it up a little bit with South Florida as well catching up. In the Big 12, Sam's already mentioned, we've got BYU at Texas Tech. That is both a big game for the conference and with playoff implications. In the Big 10, Indiana at Penn State. I only put this in there because it was meant to be a good game at the start of the season. Everyone circled it, and now no one gives two shits.
No one wants to go near it now.
Conference USA, if anyone wants a bit of Conference USA action, because it's returned to the weekend. Mississippi State, nope. At Liberty.
Liberty.
There we go. Thank you. You've bought me about 30 seconds a few seconds time. At Missouri State, even at Liberty, both of them are 3-1 in the conference. Both of them trying to put pressure on Jacksonville State, and he was the one that was really robbed out of the top 5 at the top of Conference USA. Unbeaten in the conference. That'd be Kennesaw State. Truly the ones robbed this week by the College Football Playoff Committee. We'll be putting an email in. We've got matching this week. Last night we had Miami, Ohio versus Ohio. This was the Battle of the Bricks. There have been 101 meetings there were 101, that's now 102. And the 2024 MAC Championship was Miami, Ohio. We've also got on tonight is NIU Toledo. Obviously, too late for anyone listening. It's not a traditional rivalry, but these two teams have played each other 52 times before. Interesting.
Getting up there. Getting up there.
There are a few real cool, good games in the SEC this week. Georgia at Mississippi State, Battle of the Bulldogs. Not a traditional rivalry, but two teams called Bulldog in Georgia. Sorry, in the SEC. Auburn at Vandy, as again Sam's mentioned there, bounce back game. One fun fact about them both is they've played each other 45 times. The record is 22, 1, and 22.
22.
This is a perfect 500 record in this game.
It's a tiebreaker.
So what we want is
another draw.
We can't
double overtime.
They don't do draws in college anymore, do
but
they?
What we want is that many overtimes that they do say, right, this one time.
Just call it. Just call it. Yeah.
We're on overtime 50. Come on, take the piss.
Come on, lads. We've got to get on a flight to go to our next game. Can you stop playing?
LSU Bama's a fun one, as Sam has already mentioned as well, but it's got a sneaky little name for itself. Do you know what that name is?
LSU Alabama.
It's not a traditional, like an official rivalry name, but it
is that the Golden Boot one? Or is
nope.
it, no, that's no. Which one is that? That's something to do. No, go on. What is it?
The Saban Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
Jokingly referred to as the Saban Bowl. Florida, Kentucky is not, again, it's not a proper traditional rivalry, but they've played each other since 1917, 75 times in total. These two teams don't really like each other. I don't know why, but they do. And finally, in the Sun Belt, or otherwise known as the Fun Belt Conference, we have Southern Miss at Arkansas State. This is a battle for the Sun Belt Conference West. Obviously, the winner will then probably go on and face James Madison in the Sun Belt Championship. So it will have implications for the championship game. But finally, my favourite is Georgia Southern Georgia State at Appalachian State. Sorry, the game that is entitled Deeper Than Hate.
That's got some. You wonder where that's come from, right?
Than Hate. Now I did a little bit of research this, and can you tell me why it's called Deeper Than Hate?
Is it played in a valley and that it's deeper than the Hate River or something like that?
Nope. I was gonna say it's a trick question. No one really knows why. It's just called Deeper Than Hate from the research that I saw. Gary, what games are you looking forward to this week?
I've got my eye on Kansas at Arizona, obviously from the fact that they're coming over next year. Arizona State Sun Devils are on a bye this week, so we don't have a UJC watch for them, but we do have Kansas at Arizona, not Arizona State, so not a preview for next year. So it'll be interesting to see if they bounce back there. Obviously want to be keeping an eye on the mighty Hootie Owls, bowl bound, see how they're going to get on. And, obviously I'm going to see, what's so weird? Florida State are playing Clemson this weekend.
Yep.
That game, normally, up there as a must-watch, got to watch this game, this is going to be huge. Nothing about this game. Nothing. Nobody cares. It's a nothing run-of-the-mill game. But obviously, I'm going to be keeping an eye on that one as well.
Yes. Absolutely.
It's just bizarre. Florida Clemson, it's like an ACC rivalry, usually just like up there as massive.
Yeah. Before we do go, this is the last thing I want to ask, and I'll throw this mainly to Sam. Are there any players you're looking at for a big game this week? Maybe as we look to the draft, maybe I don't know. Any players in particular you're looking at this week?
I think probably someone that I want to see a bit more of, just purely because of the fact that obviously we are coming close to the draft. I'd quite like to see how some of the Penn State players are now going to react, because obviously their season's been absolutely dreadful, but they've now surely at some point have got to kind of start putting in some performances to kind of build up their tape, because yes, they've got plenty of good tape coming from the years before, but they need to have something from this year because we know as inevitably as college football goes, it's a year-on-year difference, and we can see someone who was ranked to be the number one wide receiver ends up being the number four, number
Mhm.
five, dropping down the list. So I want to see how Penn State are going to start to how the individuals within Penn State are going to start to perform
Yeah.
because they've obviously got a lot in that team that are going to be coming into the draft this year. The likes of what's the name of the running back called?
Well, Penn State.
Yeah,
The Keenan. I want to say Keenan Allen. For some reason, I want to say Keenan. It's not.
I've got him in my team. I'll just quickly look at my team. No, wrong team. It is
Aiken Catron Allen.
Patron Allen. Yeah,
Okay,
that was
yeah.
it. So he's someone that I want to see start to build up some tape, I suppose is probably the best way to put it. Because yeah, I know they've got Indiana this week, but he still needs to start performing because he's not had a good year,
Yeah.
along with all the other Penn State players. But I think he's someone that I'm looking at. I think someone that I want to sort of see how he's going to come out of this year because I'm not sure if he's going to be the sort of player that's going to go in the draft anytime soon. But where's he gone? I was somewhere written down somewhere and I can't find where I've written, so I'm just mumbling on. There was someone that I was looking at that
While he's
could,
looking, I'd be interested to see how the Heisman candidates kind of show up now that they're
Yeah.
kind of getting into that state. Obviously Mendoza going against Penn State. The Penn State defense still isn't, anything that you can just take for granted. So he needs to kind of show up a little bit.
Yeah.
And so that will be interesting on both sides, as you say, the Heisman watch for him, but also will Penn State's draft eligible players start to show up.
Yeah.
Found it yet, Sam?
there we go, nearly. I mean, it's taking its sweet ass time to load up. There we go.
It will do right now.
It was Caleb Downs is who I was thinking of
The
because
safety? No,
the safety
safety.
at
Yes,
Ohio, yeah. Because
He
again,
plays
obviously he
about
was
94 roles in the defense, but yeah.
I was going
yeah
to say the defensive back or yeah.
yeah because obviously he's been someone who has potentially he's been touted to potentially be a number one overall pick.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
Rightly
obviously,
so.
with the state of rightly so, he's been absolutely brilliant. But I'd quite like to see because obviously he's not at all being mentioned in any of the Heisman conversations, and I think that's just down to the nature of the beast. But
He's on the
he's
defense.
someone that I think would be interesting to watch out for because the teams that we know that are currently down there, they all need a safety, but they also need a lot of other
A lot of
things.
other things. Is
Um,
safety really their concern, or is he a
But
draft eligible trade type?
but
yeah,
that's the thing though, is like, is it, yeah, he's a safety, but you can play him at corner, you can play him
mm,
probably, you to be fit, you could probably play him as a bit of a
A nickel sort of
yeah, in that weird
linebacker-esque.
linebackery, yeah, in that really odd new linebackery role, that's
mm.
kind of evolved over the past few years. You can have him in one of those multitude of roles. So like, you kind of put
He'll
him,
be
instead
on.
of putting him down, you kind of just put him down as DB or ATH rather than
Mm.
safety, corner,
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah. He's the sort of player that you can stick in a nickel blitz and all sorts of stuff, can't you? Like
Yeah,
he's so malleable to any position that he's going to succeed. But
I
it's
hate it.
I want to see him start to because again I've not watched a lot of Ohio State, but from last year, he was like the outstanding name every single week. He
Yeah,
was the guy, and I've not I've not heard as much. I think he's still been involved. He's still been brilliant, but I've not heard as much. So I'd just like to sort of
I
maybe see him put his name back on the map a bit more.
I want to kind of end my day by saying this about this kind of thing, though. I mean, Deion Sanders said it best at one point when talking
He
about
said a lot of
Travis Hunt.
things.
But this is one of the few things he said the best, or put really, really well. When talking about Travis Hunter as a DB, he was saying the reason he's not showing up on the stat sheet and you're not hearing his name a lot is actually probably a good thing
Mm.
because it means teams aren't really targeting him. They're not trying to put the ball where he is. He's not getting tackles because the ball's not being placed into his area. Why? Because more than likely, if he's in coverage, the person's covered. If he's in the area, teams are saying, I don't want to risk that. So normally what I find is, and again, like it not for homerisms, but I just find myself Ohio State have pretty much battered every team they played this year, apart from Texas, obviously. That wasn't a battering. But Ohio State have so comfortably won. I've not sat there and watched a lot of Ohio State. I've turned on to a different game that's more competitive quite early on. Because I'm not watching Ohio State beat people. I don't want to see it. Um, so like I can't particularly say from too much experience that like he isn't showing up or he isn't popping up, but usually that's the case. If you've got an elite DB and you're barely hearing his name, it's because he's doing his job right and no one's taking the
Mm.
risk of going to him.
Yep.
It always reminds me of, I guess, to kind of analogize it, I guess, another way, it'd be like, when like a heavyweight boxer at the top of his career is having one, maybe two fights a year, and yet you've got all these undercard guys who are having five or six fights a year because people want to challenge, whereas the big boxer, no one's coming
He's
to
done it.
challenge
He's
him
there.
unless
Come
they
on.
really,
Mm.
really want the challenge.
Yeah.
They're not taking the chances half the time. Your undercard guys are not taking the chances.
They're not ready to step up there. Yeah.
Um, So it's only when you really want to step up and take him on that you will go to him, and then he'll do it. You'll hear his name,
Mm.
and then you won't hear it again for the rest of the day because they're gonna go back to not wanting to do it. Unfortunately, because
He's just too good.
he's
I mean, it
just
makes
that
sense.
good.
I mean, yeah. And going back to he will get drafted early, and teams down there will need him. Well, won't need him, but a player like that is a difference maker across your whole defense. He'll lift everybody
Yeah,
around him. He'll make everybody else play better. So,
right.
maybe he goes to somewhere that's anyway.
My final thing I'm gonna say on this actually, and I'm gonna again because of who a lot of our audience is. If you ever look at a sweeper keeper and how in football, when you play defense in certain ways, how having that one centre back or how having that one sweeper keeper changes your entire way of play and how much better they make everyone around him because you know that you can do the thing and you've got the support there if the thing that you do doesn't entirely work out to the way you kind of want it to. And I always think like it allows you to take a risk, but also allows you to be safer at times. And you sometimes you don't have to play a hero. You can just do the job because you know you've got the right support around you. So it does elevate it because you can cover and you can maybe go in for and try and make that PBU. You know you've got Caleb Downs coming in and helping you. And just the way that certain players, just by being there and their presence and how good they are, allows other people to play their game better and do
Yep.
those kind of things. It's great to see. With that being said, we did say we were going to be better with time. I don't think we quite have been this week. We've shaved a couple of minutes off. We're getting there.
We're
Couple of
getting
minutes
there.
every week.
A couple of minutes every week will be down to time soon enough next season.
Appreciate it, gents. It's been a really, really good time chatting with you. As always, please check the links in the description of this episode to follow us on social media, to follow the host on social media, to follow AEW, get in touch with the website, come and chat to us. We would love to see you in our Discord. I'll be in this weekend, hopefully chatting all things college football in the voice chats. Like to see you there. Michigan gonna run a bye week, so I can just I'm free to just watch whatever college football I want to
So
watch.
so are Texas. So I'm not watching college football this week.
Oh, damn it. Um, so Sam, we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And Gary, well, hopefully I will see you. Well, I'll speak to you all in the week, and we will see you next week as we look to week 12.
Enjoy the football.